President-elect Trump tells the New York Times that government conflict of interest laws will not apply to him as president. He said under the law, he has no obligation to cut ties with his businesses. He also said the Trump name, quote, is certainly a hotter brand than it was before. Anna Werner is outside Trump Tower in New York City with the president-elect's outlook on his business ventures. Anna, good morning.
Good morning. Well, Mr. Trump, as we know, has business interests around the world. Now the question is, what will he do to separate his businesses from government?
New York Times reporters quoted Mr. Trump as saying when it comes to conflicts of interest, the law favors him and that the president can't have a conflict of interest. But this law professor says that's not true.
Well, he's wrong because the president has an obligation to act in all things for America first, in his words.
Brian Quinn is from Boston College.
When there is the prospect, even the likelihood, that his private business interests can affect his decision-making, then it's hard for citizens to really believe that in all things he is acting for America first and not for his own personal interests.
Donald Trump's interests and businesses span 59 properties in at least 12 other countries, everything from residential towers to golf courses to hotels.
1, 2, 3.
The Trump Organization has said management of the businesses will transfer to Mr. Trump's children when he becomes president.
This is big league stuff.
And on 60 Minutes, he said the country will be his priority.
I don't care about hotel occupancy. It's peanuts compared to what we're doing.
But Mr. Trump's transition activities have raised questions. The president-elect was photographed at Trump Tower last week with 3 of his Indian business partners, while the Trump camp later claimed it wasn't a meeting, only a brief exchange of hellos. It drew attention in India.
It wasn't received much like the way it was received here.
Tanvi Madan is an Indian foreign policy expert with the Brookings Institution.
One thing it definitely did was increase the visibility of both the Trump projects, but also these Indian business partners within the Indian media.
There's also Ivanka Trump's presence at a meeting between her father and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And an Argentine spokesman from the president's office says Ivanka Trump said hello to Argentine President Mauricio Macri at the end of a congratulatory call between the Argentine leader and Mr. Trump last week. The Trump team didn't return our request for a comment. New York Times reporters said Mr. Trump told them on Tuesday, if it were up to some people, I would never ever see my daughter Ivanka again. Quinn says removing conflicts for Mr. Trump means separating himself from his businesses.
Merely turning over management of the businesses, while he maintains a financial interest in all of them, is not going to be sufficient to allay any sort of conflict. Every dollar that gets invested or spent or raised by the business through sales is a dollar that goes into his pocket, or some portion of it goes into his pocket, even if his children are managing the business.
Now, as we've said before, conflict of interest laws that affect other government employees do not apply to the president or vice president. Now, that law professor says the Constitution does set limits on a president's ability to gain other compensation above his usual pay, but the only people who can take action on that are members of Congress through impeachment processes. In this case, Republicans, since they control the Congress. Josh?
Anna Werner, thank you.